Hello again and welcome to World Talks, where every word matters. I'm Anna Kalczyńska. 3 years since the start of the full-scale Russian invasion on Ukraine, and 11 years since the start of Russian war against Ukraine. With Volodymyr Zelenskyy ready to leave his post, if that benefited Ukraine, as he said, and with a sharp turn of the new US administration in the negotiation process with Moscow, where are we today in the long process of Ukraine's fight for freedom and ending the war? To unpack this complex situation Kyiv finds itself in, I'm joined by Bohdan Nahaylo, editor-in-chief, Kyiv Post. Good evening.
My pleasure to be with you again.
So, experts differ as to the prospects for peace in Ukraine and for its negotiation position. So what is your opinion on the situation Ukraine is today from Kyiv?
Here in Kyiv, people are minimally optimistic, but minimally optimistic means that they weren't optimistic at all until quite recently. There seemed no end to this horrendous war. And now there is talk that at least there may be a suspension of hostilities and that some deal might be reached. The question is it going to be a fair deal? Is it going to be Ukraine sold down the drain, or Ukraine given assurances, some kind of ceasefire holding action until, let's hope, Putin is removed and some kind of more decent Russia can be spoken to? Okay. But right now, I think today, the third anniversary of the all-out attack on Ukraine has been a turning point. We've seen a massive demonstration of European leaders in Ukraine. Most of Europe represented there, and other leaders fighting their own cause, but for Ukraine also in Washington. I mean Macron, and I mean the British Prime Minister, etc. And it was an amazing display of solidarity on this somber day at a time when the Americans are being very erratic. Not the Americans, but the Trump administration. So it was a very clear signal of European solidarity, and that the bluster and the blackmail, the primitive behavior, caving into Putin from the Trump administration is not going to be accepted, neither in Ukraine nor in Europe as such. And the fact that the takeaways from today are that the European countries are considering a helpline for Ukraine, which is not just financial, but which means serious armaments, including potentially closing the skies at last. This is a very powerful signal both to Ukraine of support, but also to Washington, certainly to Moscow, but also to China, to India, to the BRICS countries, etc. So I would say today, and the other factor, of course, the election in Germany, and that the new leader, Mr. Merz, is more assertive in his support for Ukraine and for a stronger Europe, with Germany playing a much more important role and in close association with, say, Poland, for example. Mm-hmm. That is a good signal. So today, some good news, finally.
Good news as a senior and a very, we should say, serious representation of EU leaders arrived to Kyiv. And the EU announced 3.5 billion payment to be handed over to Ukraine in March, along with new sanction package on Russia, which has been agreed upon. So is this a new coalition of the willing that you're just witnessing in Kyiv today?
You took the words out of my mouth. Obviously, this is a coalition of the committed, not just the willing. And it's about time that Europe got its act together. Maybe Trump's statements and the statements by his very amateurish and sycophantic, I would say, aides, was the kick up the proverbial you-know-where that Europe needed to get its act together. And maybe this is the start of a new phase in Europe's history. So that's why I say today could have been the turning point that we were awaiting, that it's not simply by inertia reliance on Washington. And look, let's not downgrade the support that America has given, the Americans themselves and the Biden administration. Yes, they fell short. They didn't give Ukraine the long-range weapons that could have solved many problems, and they weren't committed to Russia's defeat. They were committed to holding Russia at bay. We today have to think about what is a sustainable peace, not just for Ukraine, but for Europe as such. What is going to guarantee our collective security in the years to come, allowing us to concentrate on, issues of economy, immigration, our internal issues, etc.
Shortly, as we know that Emmanuel Macron has been just received by President Donald Trump, Keir Starmer also is about to pay a visit to Washington. What do you think? What are your expectations of these meetings?
Optimally, I would think that they would have some influence where Trump realizes with his aides that, no, this is not going to pass. This bluster and this Tarzan-like beating the chest and treating others as minions, as inferior creatures in a jungle, international jungle, is not going to happen. And he has, he's attacked Europe. Tariff threats, he's attacked Canada, he's gone for Greenland, he's gone for Panama, he's challenged economically also China. Let's be frank. It's not going to work. Realities are going to hit home. His ratings at home are falling drastically, already 5% drop in his ratings in 1 week. So eventually, I think either there's going to be a big split in the Republican Party, or his own people are going to say, Donald, calm down. Yes, this is all very nice, but you can't run it as if you're, just by yourself in America, and that there are no consequences. There are consequences, and we have to face up to the reality. So you've had your 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks of bravado after the inauguration, but let's get real now. And if Europe now pulls together and gets its act together, and with Poland, having the presidency of the EU, with a new leader in Germany, with Macron being strong as well, and the Brits, I think there's a winning formula for salvaging the situation, that perhaps it's not going to be as bad as it has seemed in the last, say, 10 days.
Interesting. So let's get back to the European and American plan on the peace in Ukraine. Security guarantees by the Europeans alone were never enough for Volodymyr Zelenskyy, and he said that. Now, following the hard negotiation line announced by the Trump administration, we've seen Zelenskyy traveling to Turkey, for instance, looking for new potential alliances. So what is the new strategy of the Ukrainian leader? Is there one?
I think implicitly there's a plan B, Europe, but Turkey playing a significant role. Does Turkey want the Black Sea to become a Russian sea? I don't think so. Does Turkey see investment opportunities in a post-war Ukraine for its people and its economists and workers? Sure. Does China want Russia to destroy Ukraine? Look, remember, and I emphasize this, people forget this, that for Ukraine, China was its biggest trading partner before this war started, bigger than even the EU, which is now the case. It was the main conduit into Europe. Does China want Odessa destroyed, Ukraine taken over by the Russians? I'm sure not. They play it both ways, but China has, though being so close to, it seems, Moscow, it has spoken out for territorial integrity, like Turkey has. So I think that also for China, it's not convenient for Donald Trump to, embrace Vova Putin in the way that he is doing. So I think they will also play their role. And if I'm not mistaken, today there is some Chinese representative at what's going on in Kyiv. I don't know if we have a result yet from the UN General Assembly, Have the Americans managed to put forward their own resolution on the third anniversary in opposition to Ukraine's and the European one and its partners? Where does China stand there? Let's see. But look, things are in flux, and every state, every power bloc is out for its own interests. Where the dust will settle remains to be seen. But clearly Ukraine today, on the third anniversary, with the help of its allies, including Poland, very strongly, and others, it is a bastion. It is shall we say, the fortress of democratic values confronting despotism and imperialism.
Thank you so much, Bohdan Nahaylo. Indeed, many things are going on in the world right now as we speak. 2 versions of the UN resolutions are going to be voted in the UN. And a phone call between Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin has also taken place today, reaffirming their strong friendship and cooperation perspectives. So that all plays here and in a very important role, I imagine. Thank you so much again for being with us. We wish you a peaceful evening in Kyiv tonight.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us here on TVP World, where every word matters. I'm Nakalczyńska. Thank you so much.